should know who I am by now. I walk, the record stands somehow.
Hello everyone, this is Misha Houston and I'm here to do my analysis of Elaine 1, a sample chapter released from the upcoming book by George R. Martin called The Winds of Winter. Yes, this is my analysis and I am going to continue on with my Sansa and the Safety of Winds series. This is safety number 4. Safety number 4 is the mountain clans of the Vale of Arryn. Now, the leaders of the mountain clans of the Vale are of the Stone Crows, Gunthor, son of Gurn, Shagga, son of Dorf, and Khan, son of Karat. Of the Black Ears, the leader of the Black Ears is Chella, daughter of Cheek. Of the Burn men, we have Timett, son of Timett. And of the Moon brothers, we have Ulf, son of Umar. The mountain clans of the Vale are the original inhabitants of the Vale. And they are a quarrelsome and barbaric lot for sure. But strangely enough, Sansa may find some safety with him. Now, I know that this is a stretch, but hear me out. Most people would be, that would have the misfortune of running into the mountain clans would have to most likely fight for their lives. But I think Sansa Stark is the lone exception. The sole reason why I think she will be safe with the clansmen is because of one person, Tyrion Lannister. He is a vital link between Sansa and the clans, and I think that he may ensure her safety. I have no doubt that the clans will make an appearance in the Winds of Winter, and due to Tyrion Lannister, they have already made an appearance in A Game of Thrones and in A Clash of Kings. Now, the chapters that I'm going to be reading from is Tyrion VI, A Game of Thrones, Tyrion V, A Clash of Kings, Tyrion VII, A Game of Thrones, Tyrion VIII, A Game of Thrones, Tyrion IX, A Game of Thrones, Sansa VI, A Game of Thrones, Sansa I, A Clash of Kings, Sansa III, A Clash of Kings, Tyrion 15, A Clash of Kings, Tyrion I, A Storm of Swords, and and Sansa III, A Storm of Swords. Now, as you probably have surmised by now, this is going to be a little long, but I think it is worth it. So here I go, and I hope that you enjoy this part of my series. Thank you so much. Tyrion IV, A Clash of Kings. Littlefinger stroked the neat spike of his beard. Lysa has woes of her own. Clansmen have been raiding out of the mountains of the moon in greater numbers than ever before and better armed. Distressing, said Tyrion Lannister, who had armed them. I could not help her. I could help her with that, one word from me. But we all know that it was Tyrion who armed them, and it is Tyrion himself who wanted revenge against Lysa Arryn for the trial. The winds will blow cold, driving the clansmen to seek food and proper shelter wherever they can find it. I truly believe that the clans will make a serious move against the Vale of Arryn in the last 2 books. There hasn't been much action in the Vale, and the next book is the perfect time for the mountain men to strike. Let's take it back to the beginning, when Tyrion first meets the clansmen. Tyrion VI, A Game of Thrones. They had been riding since daybreak, when a stone-faced Sir Lyn Corbray had ushered them out of the bloody gate and commanded them to never return. After Bronn defeated Sir Vardis Egan in Tyrion's trial, both Bronn and Tyrion were released and told to leave the Vale. They are traveling through the mountains, trying to reach civilization, when they wake up to the clansmen at their campsite. Tyrion VI, A Game of Thrones. The fire had burned down to the embers, and the shadows were creeping all around them. Bronn had raised himself to one knee, his sword in one hand, his dirk in the other. Tyrion held up a hand. "Stay still," it said. "Come, share our fire. The night is cold," he called out to the creeping shadows. "I fear we have no wine to offer you, but you are welcome to some of our goat." All movement stopped. Tyrion saw a glint of moonlight on metal. "Our mountain," a voice called out from the trees, deep and hard and unfriendly. "Our goat." "Your goat," Tyrion agreed. "Who are you?" "When you meet your gods," a different voice replied, "say it was Gunthor, son of Gurn of the Stone Crows, who sent you to meet them." Tyrion VI, A Game of Thrones. The clansmen mean to rob and kill Bronn and enslave Tyrion. Tyrion VI, A Game of Thrones. "Khan, take their horses," Gunthor commanded. "Kill the other and seize the half-man. He can milk the goats and make the mothers laugh." But with humor and bribery and his impeccable negotiation skills, Tyrion manages to buy enough time to make it safely to the Green Fork with a host of 300 new allies for the Lannister cause. At the beginning of Tyrion VII, A Game of Thrones, Chella, daughter of Check of the Black-Ears, is seen scouting ahead with a reply of Tyrion VII, A Game of Thrones. "By their fire, I call them 20,000 strong. Their banners are red with a golden lion." The reason that I mentioned Chella, daughter of Cheek, is because she will make an appearance in Sansa's future chapters. Chella will be one of the people on Sansa's side. Tyrion wanted to ride down alone to meet with his father, but it is eventually agreed that one or two members of each clan will accompany Tyrion. Tyrion VII, A Game of Thrones. "You shall ride with me, and Shagga and Khan of the Stone Crows, Ulf of the Moon Brothers, and Timid son of Timid for the Burned Men." Ulf of the Moon Brothers, along with Chella of the Black-Ears, may also be possible allies for Sansa, because Tyrion VII, A Game of Thrones, and Chella and Ulf stay close as well, as the Moon Brothers and the Black-Ears had strong bonds between them. So because of that bond, Sansa may have, some sort of an advantage, some sort of stroke with two of the clansmen of the Vale, two separate clans of the Vale. Tyrion VII, A Game of Thrones. Have you forgotten your courtesies? Kindly acquaint us with our honored guest. Introduce the clansman to his father and vice versa. "My lord," he said, "Sir Adam bid me tell you that the Stark host is moving down the causeway." Now, with Robb Stark's army advancing south, Tyrion very wisely and surprisingly treats the clansmen with respect and asks them for their help, which they accepted for a payment of arms, such as 3,000 helms, swords, maces, and so forth. But there is also another condition that Tyrion must adhere to. Tyrion VII, A Game of Thrones. We will ride with you, Lion Lord, Chella, daughter of Cheek, agreed, but only if the half-man's son goes with us. He has brought his breath with promises. Until we hold the steel he pledged us, his life is ours. Isn't it funny that a faction that is pledged to the Lannisters may be the same faction that may become an ally to one of the Starks? I think that's a funny little coincidence. Tyrion VIII, A Game of Thrones. Lord Lefford, the sour bird who had charge of their stores and supplies, leaned forward. I hope your savages do not share your reluctance, else we've wasted good steel on them. My savages will put your steel to excellent use, my lord, replied Tyrion. When he had told Lefford he needed arms and armor to equip the 300 men Ulf had fetched down from the foothills, you would have thought he had asked the man to turn his virgin daughters over to their pleasure. Tyrion kept his promise to the clansmen, giving them food, arms, and a safe place within the Lannister camp, which pleased the clansmen greatly. Tyrion VIII, A Game of Thrones. When he heard the deep rumble of Shagga's laughter booming through the dark, he followed it to the Stone Crows in their small corner of the night. Khan, son of Korat, waved a tankard of ale. Tyrion Halfman, come sit by our fire. Share our meat with the Stone Crows. We have an ox. Now, earlier that day, Tyrion arrived late to dinner with his father, uncle, and other generals of his lordship's army. It was decided that Tyrion and the clansmen would be placed on the front lines and the furthest to the left, led by Sir Gregor Clegane. Tyrion suspected that his father was trying to kill him, but Tyrion did as he was told. Tyrion VIII, A Game of Thrones. Sir Kevin leaned forward. We had a thought to put you and your wildlings in the vanguard when we come to battle. Tyrion VIII, A Game of Thrones. Clegane had no splendor about him. His armor was steel plate, dull gray, scarred by hard use and showing neither sigil nor ornament. He was pointing men into position with his blade, a two-handed great sword that Sir Gregor, waved about with one hand as a lesser man might wave at Tyrion. Imp, take the left, hold the river if you can. Tyrion VIII, A Game of Thrones. That river is ours. Whatever happens, keep close to the water. Never lose sight of it. Let no enemy come between us and our river. If they dirty our waters, hack off their cocks and feed them to the fishes. Shagga had an axe in either hand. He smashed them together and made them ring. Half men, they shouted. Other Stone Crows picked up the cry, and the Black-Ears and Moon Brothers as well. The Birdmen did not shout, but they rattled their swords and spears. Half man, half man, half man. So as we know, Tyrion kept his promise. He's going to fight in the Battle of Green Fork. Now, the Battle of the Green Fork was a bloody affair. On the Lannister side of the river, Tyrion VIII, A Game of Thrones, the vanguard was made up of the sweepings of the west, mounted archers in leather jerkins, a swarming mass of undisciplined free riders and sellswords, field hands on plow horses, armed with scythes and their father's rusted swords, half-trained boys from the stews of Lannisport, and Tyrion and his mountain clansmen. Now, while on the Stark side of the river, Tyrion ate a game of thrones. Their captains led them on armored war horses, standard bearers riding alongside with their banners. He glimpsed the bull moose of the Hornwoods, the Karstark sunburst, Lord Kerwin's battle axe, and a mailed fist of the Glovers, and the twin towers of Frey, blue on gray. Now, with the Lannisters achieving the victory over the Starks, Robb Stark was not there, so it was very much a hollow victory. Tyrion himself suffered injuries, hostages were taken, and there were losses on each side. Tyrion ate a game of thrones. The night came thundering down on him, swinging a spiked ball of a morning star around his head. Their war horses slammed together while Tyrion could so much as open his mouth to shout for brawn. His right elbow exploded with pain as the spikes punched through the thin metal around the joint. His axe was gone as fast as that. He clawed for his sword, but the morning star was circling again, coming at his face. A sickening crunch, and he was falling. He did not recall hitting the ground, but when he looked up, there was only sky above him. Tyrion ate a game of thrones. My liege, we have taken some of their commanders, Lord Kerwin, Sir Willis Manderley, Harrion Karstark, 4 Freys. Lord Hornwood is dead, and I fear Roose Bolton has escaped us. Tyrion ate a game of thrones. He and Bronn went looking for his men. Many were found among the dead. Ulf, son of Umar, lay in a pool of congealing blood, his arm gone at the elbow. A dozen of his moon brothers sprawled around him. Shaga was slumped beneath a tree riddled with arrows, Khan's head in his lap. Tyrion thought they were both dead, but as he dismounted, Shaga opened his eyes and said, "They have killed Khan, son of Korah." Handsome Khan had no mark but the red stain above his breast, where the spear had where the spear had thrust had killed him. When Bronn pulled Shaga to his feet, the big man seemed to notice the arrows for the first time. He plucked them out one by one, cursing the holes they had made in his layers of mail and leather, and yowling like a babe at a few that had buried themselves in his flesh. Chella, daughter of Sheik, rode up as they were yanking arrows out of Shaga, and showed them 4 ears she had taken. Timid, they discovered looting bodies of the slain of his burned men. Of the 300 clansmen who had ridden to battle behind Tyrion Lannister, perhaps half had survived. Later on, it is realized that the Battle of the Green Fork was nothing but a diversion to capture Jaime Lannister. Tyrion IX, A Game of Thrones. "They have my son," Tywin Lannister said. Now that Jaime has been captured by Robb Stark, Lord Tywin Lannister had to make a move against Robb Stark and see him for the true threat that he is. He decided to take his forces to Harrenhal while he let Sir Gregor Clegane loose in the Riverlands to pillage as he likes. Lord Tywin Lannister wanted to take the clansmen with him, but Tyrion would not allow that. He had formed a bond of trust with them and wasn't going to let it be squandered by his father. Tyrion IX, A Game of Thrones. When they were alone, Lord Tywin glanced at Tyrion. Your savages might relish a bit of rapine. Tell them they may ride with AGOT and plunder as they like. Good stock, women. They may take whatever they want and burn the rest. Telling Shagga and Timon how to pillage is like telling a rooster how to crow, Tyrion commented. But I should prefer to keep them with me. Uncouth and unruly as they may be, the wildlings were his, and he trusted them more than any of his father's men. He was not about to hand them over. Now, with Joffrey foolishly executing Lord Eddard Stark and bringing the northern and Tully forces down upon the Lannisters, Tywin orders Tyrion to go to King's Landing so he can curb Joffrey and Cersei's authority. Tyrion IX, A Game of Thrones. King's Landing, I am sending you to court. The mess that Cersei and Joffrey has made is completely unforgivable to Tywin, and with Jaime captured, Tyrion is Tywin's only hope of getting things back in line. The next few passages now include Sansa, Tyrion, the clansmen, and their interactions between them. In Clash is where the connection between Tyrion, Sansa, and the clansmen will lie. Now, on Joffrey's 13th name day, Tyrion and the clansmen arrive at King's Landing to meet Sansa for the first time. After Eddard Stark's execution, Sansa is repeatedly beaten, humiliated, and insulted on Joffrey's orders, even being made to look upon her father's and Septa Mordane's severed head. Sansa VI, A Game of Thrones. A thick stone parapet protected the outer edge of the rampart, reaching as high as Sansa's chin, with crenellations cut into every 5 feet for archers. The heads were mounted between the crenels along the top of the wall, impaled on iron spikes so they faced out over the city. Sansa had noted them the moment she stepped out onto the walkway, but the river and the bustling streets in the setting sun were ever so much prettier. He can make me look at the heads, she told herself, but he cannot make me see them. This one is your father, he said. This one here. Dog, turn it around so she can see him. Sandor Clegane took the head by the hair and turned it. The severed head had been dipped in tar to preserve it longer. Sansa looked at it calmly, not seeing it at all. It did not really look like Lord Eddard, she thought. It did not even look real. How long do I have to look? Joffrey seemed disappointed. Do you want to see the rest? There is a long row of them. If it please your grace. Joffrey marched down the walkway past a dozen more heads and 2 empty spikes. I'm saving those for my Uncle Stannis and my Uncle Renly, he explained. The other heads had been dead and mounted much longer than her father. Despite the tar, most were long past being unrecognizable. The king pointed to one and said, "That's your scepter there." But Sansa could not have seen if it was a woman. The jaw had rotted off her face, and the birds had eaten one ear and most of her cheek. Sansa had wondered what had happened to Septa Mordane, although she supposed she had known all along. As Sansa's life has been made an absolute torment, Tyrion arrives to greet Sansa with the clansmen in tow. Sansa won A Clash of Kings. Tyrion turned to Sansa. "My lady, I'm sorry for your losses. Truly, the gods are cruel." She was left with the dwarf and his monsters. Lannister reached out and took her hand and gave it a squeeze. I am only a little lion child, but I vow not to savage you. In front of the clansmen, including Timid of the Burned Men, he treats her with kindness and respect. Even though Sansa is wise not to trust the Lannisters, the clansmen see Tyrion, who has helped them so much, treat Sansa well. Sansa, at least by association, may receive kindness from the clansmen later on. During the clansmen' time in King's Landing, Tyrion uses them as henchmen to protect himself from his enemies at court and, and to frighten the other lords and nobles. Before the Battle of Blackwater Bay, Tyrion also uses them to assault Stannis' baggage train, ambush his scouts, and conduct nighttime raids. Tyrion is their commander for now, and under his leadership, the clansmen do well. Sansa 3, A Clash of Kings. Now, after Robb Stark had defeated Stafford Lannister at Oxcross, Joffrey commands Sansa's presence in the throne room. With the victories that Robb is winning, King Joffrey takes his anger out on Sansa. Your Grace, she fell to her knees. Kneeling won't save you now, the king said. Stand up. You're here to answer for your brother's latest treasons. I'd shoot you too, but if I do, Mother says they kill my Uncle Jamie. Instead, you will be punished, and will send word to your brother about what happens to you if he does not yield. Dog, hit her. Sir Dantos the Red of House Hollard, her secret friend, tried to help Sansa by beating her with a melon, a fruit melon, in the hopes that it would appease Joffrey, but it is to no avail. He commanded Sir Meryn to send him away while Sir Boros Blunt hit her in the belly with his fist. And he also hit her amongst her legs, her thighs, with the flat side of his sword. Leave her face, Joffrey commanded. I like her pretty. Sansa 3, A Clash of Kings. Boros slammed a fist into Sansa's belly, driving all the air out of her. When she doubled over, the knight grabbed her hair and drew his sword. And for one hideous moment, she was certain he meant to open her throat. As he laid the flat side of the blade across her thighs, she thought her legs would break from the force of the blows. Sansa screamed. Tears welled up in her eyes. It will be over soon. She soon lost count of the blows. The hound objected by saying enough, but to add insult to injury, Joffrey commanded Sir Boros to tear off her clothes. Sansa 3, A Clash of Kings. Boros shoved a meaty hand down the front of Sansa's bodice and gave it a hard yank. The silk came tearing away, bearing her at the waist. Sansa covered her breast with her hands. Tyrion, Bronn, and Timid, the red hand of the burned men, filed into the throne room and rightly puts a stop to Joffrey's abuse of Sansa. What's the meaning of this? The imp's voice cracked like a whip, and suddenly Sansa was free. She stumbled to her knees, crossed her arms over her breast, her breath ragged. Is this your notion of chivalry, Sir Boros? Tyrion Lannister demanded angrily. His pet sellsword stood with him, one of his wildlings, the one with the burned eye. After they stop, Sansa's abuse, they take Sansa out of the throne room and put her in the Tower of the Hand. Sansa 3, A Clash of Kings. Bronn, Timid, bring her. Sansa moves as if she was in a dream. She thought the imp's men would take her back to the bedchamber in Maegor's Holdfast, but instead they conducted her to the Tower of the Hand. Safely away from Joffrey, she is bathed, her wounds are treated, and she's given dream wine and honey to help her sleep. Waking up later on, she tried to leave, but she runs into another one of the clansmen, Chella, daughter of Cheek of the Blackyears. Sansa 3, A Clash of Kings. It was dark when she woke again, not quite knowing where she was. The room, both strange and strangely familiar. As she rose, a stab of pain went through her legs and brought it all back. Tears filled her eyes. Someone had laid out a robe for her beside the bed. Sansa slipped it on and opened the door. Outside stood a hard-faced woman with leathery brown skin. 3 necklaces looped around her scrawny neck, one of gold, one of silver, and one made of human ears. Where does she think she's going? The woman asked, leaning on a tall spear. The guards would. She had to find Sir Dantos, beg him to take her home before it's too late. The half-man said, "You are not to leave." The woman said, "Pray here, the gods will hear." A little later on, she is given food and she has a conversation with Tyrion Lannister, who explains why Joffrey was so upset. He also asks if she wanted out of the betrothal, which Sansa dishonestly answers no. She doesn't want out of the betrothal. She doesn't want any special treatment. She has a plan of her own in place, and she's just trying to hold on until she can make her escape. Tyrion offers to let Sansa stay with him in the Tower of the Hand, but Sansa refuses that as well, and she just wants to go back to her own chambers. Once again, the clansmen do no harm to Sansa, for they see that she is in Tyrion's favor. I have a feeling that if Sansa and the clansmen should meet again, they may remember her. And I hope for her sake that they do remember her. But how could you forget a girl being beaten in open court? I mean, even the people of the clansmen would remember something like. During the Battle of Blackwater Bay, Tyrion suffers a terrible injury. Sir Mandon Moore, while trying to get him out of the water, took his sword and slashed Tyrion's face, leaving him with a hideous facial scar and a shortened nose. Tyrion 15, A Clash of Kings. Balabar, Tyrion repeated, "Bring me looking glass." "My lord," the maester said, "I will not counsel. That might be unwise, as it were your wound." "Bring it," he had to say. His mouth was stiff and sore, as if a punch had split his lip. "And drink wine, no poppy." The maester rose flush-faced and hurried off. He came back with a flagon of pale amber wine and small silver looking glass with an ornate golden frame. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he poured half a cup of wine and held it to his swollen lips. The trickle went down cool, though he could hardly taste it. "More," he had said when the cup was empty. Maester Balabar poured again. By the end of the second cup, Tyrion felt strong enough to face his face. He turned the glass over and did not know whether to laugh or cry. The gash was long and crooked, starting a hair under his left eye and ending on the right side of his jaw. 3/4 of his nose was gone and a chunk of his lip. Someone had sewn the torn flesh together with catgut, and their clumsy stitches were still in place across the seams of the raw red half-healed flesh. "Pretty," he croaked, flinging the glass aside. Tyrion 15, A Clash of Kings. Sometime after he regained his strength, Tyrion asked about the clansmen, and this was Bronn's response. Tyrion 1. A Storm of Swords. I sent Pa looking for Shagga, but he's had no luck. The stone crows are still in the Kingswood. Shagga seems to have taken a fancy to the place. Timid led the burned men home with all the plunder they took from Stannis' camp after the fighting. Chella turned up with a dozen Blackears at the river gate one morning, but your father's red cloaks chased them off while the King's Landingers threw dung and cheered. From here on, I'm going to skip ahead to A Storm of Swords and their interactions between Tyrion and Sansa. There is one more piece that links the clansmen, Sansa, and Tyrion all together. Sansa 3, A Storm of Swords. During the council meeting, Tywin reveals a plot concocted by the Tyrells to marry Sansa Stark to Willis Tyrell. But before they could act, Tyrion decreed that Sansa instead would marry Tyrion. Neither of them is pleased, but they both do as they are told. Sansa 3. And so it was that her lord husband, cloaked in the colors of House Lannister, while standing on the back of a fool. When Sansa turned, the little man was gazing up at her, his mouth tight, his face red as her cloak. Suddenly she was ashamed of her southernness. She smoothed her skirts and knelt in front of him so their heads were on the same level. With this kiss I pledge my love and take you as my lord and husband. With this kiss I pledge my love, the dwarf replied hoarsely, and take you as my lady and wife. He leaned forward, and their lips touched briefly. He is so ugly, Sansa thought, with his face close to hers. He is even uglier than the hound. The Septon raised his crystal eyes so that the rainbow light fell down upon them. Here in the sights of gods and men, he said, I solemnly proclaim Tyrion of the House Lannister and Sansa of the House Stark to be man and wife, one flesh, one heart, one soul, now and forever, and cursed be the one who comes between them. Sansa 3, A Storm of Swords. She had to bite her lip keep from sobbing. Now, their wedding night is awkward, cold, and passionless, and the marriage was never consummated. Sansa 3, A Storm of Swords. On my honor as a Lannister, the imp said, I will not touch you until you want me to. It took all of Sansa's courage that was in her to look in those mismatched eyes and say, if I never want you to, my lord? His mouth jerked as if she had slapped him. Never. Her neck was so tight she could scarcely nod. Why, he said, that is why the gods have made whores for imps like me. He closed his short, blunt fingers into a fist and climbed down off of the bed. Now, the marriage was certainly not what either one of them wanted, but I do believe it is a blessing in disguise. As Tyrion's wife, she was protected from the worst of Joffrey's cruelty, allowed to remain untouched if the right man should come along, and may have secured the kindness of the mountain clans. The clans owe a lot to Tyrion Lannister, and I am willing to bet that the kindness will be repaid to Sansa should she ever come across the clansmen again. Chella, daughter of Cheek of the Blackears, proves that a woman's voice can be every bit as powerful as a man's. If she somehow comes across her or Timid of the Burned Men, being Tyrion's wife, that may give her an advantage. And it may also ensure her survival. She might be the only woman that would survive. We shall have to see. Thank you all so much for watching my video, and I will be back in a little while with my next installments. Thank you so much, and have a great day.